I wish to sincerely thank you and the Cora for selecting this important issue for debate and all here this evening. We are all aware of the importance of having a safety net in place in the social welfare system if one falls into personal difficulties, such as illness or where one unexpectedly loses a job. And it is extremely important in this context that people who find themselves in these positions have a seamless access to the welfare system and receive the due payments in accordance with their contribution rates, which is laid down in law, and we appreciate that. During the course of the recent general election campaign, I, like many colleagues in this House, encountered hundreds of self-employed people across my constituency of Longford Westmeath who become unemployed, unexpectedly so, and some due to the downturn, some due to illness and various other matters of that nature, due to the closure of the business, or who, because they were liable for PRSI payments under the Class S rate of 4%, which entitled them to access long-term benefits such as the state pension contributory, widows and widowers, or surviving civil partnership pension contributory. But as can be gleaned from above, it does not qualify them for job seekers' benefit, irrespective of how long they have made their contributions. So they are compelled to recourse to seeking job seeker allowance, which of course we all know is means tested. For many self-employed people, this turns out to be their first encounter with social welfare, and indeed it has turned into an emotive, torturous and indeed complex process, insofar as the assessment must reflect the income that the self-employed person might expect to get from his or her business over the next 12 months or so. And this will in fact generally be posited upon what he or she has earned over the past 12 months. And a minute examination of the previous year's activities income arising is then gone through. Most people have not a euro left, Minister, at that stage. And, you know, it's a bit like looking for this last year's snow at this stage in the middle of spring, because it's a very exhaustive process, it takes a long time, and it taxes everyone's patience, and then it proceeds, and these people are left in limbo, without any income to pay for the essentials of living, to keep food on the table, keep a roof over their heads. The fallback advice, of course, is to go to community welfare officer. But again, that is not a straightforward process. You know, your history then has to be reviewed, an assessment has to be carried out, so it's a vicious cycle. And in the meantime, the self-employed applicant is not even a statistic on the unemployment register. Not a statistic. And by virtue of that consequence alone, they don't qualify for participation in the various schemes and opportunities that might arise therefrom. So they are left in no man's land, and they feel bruised and isolated and deeply irritated, and indeed I understand that, and it's understandably so. It was as a result of these situations that I encountered the past 2 years that I specifically requested that a commitment be included in the programme for government to examine the feasibility of providing social insurance cover for self-employed persons. And I understand, and I want to compliment you, Minister, in establishing the advisory group on tax and social welfare to progress this issue and establish whether or not cover is technically feasible, and you have to go through that process, and indeed whether it's financially sustainable, and I appreciate that too. But we should not forget, Minister, that many of these people who are self-employed also provide very valuable employment for others. And many of them who are sole traders or partners often found themselves victims insofar as money that they were due from the main contractor or subcontractor, many of them who may well have gone out of business, they didn't get it all, and it didn't materialise at all, or was just subject to only part payment, thus ultimately leading to the collapse of the self-employed person's business, and that's why they find themselves in with your department. So we have to confront this issue, Minister, and address it in a positive and constructive way, and address the plight of the self-employed, as I said in the motion. It is my belief from many discussions I have had with self-employed persons that if given the opportunity, that they would be willing to contribute to a special rate PRSI contribution, which would likely be significant, and I accept that, but which would enable them upon cessation of employment by virtue of a downturn or other circumstance to qualify for benefits immediately and have access to the full range of social welfare insurance benefits that would arise from making contributions at that particular level of class. That may not mean that it would be entitled to full social welfare, it would be at the class, and I think, Minister, as an accountant, you're acutely aware of that and better able to understand the most.
Sorry, Deputy, your time is up.
I just concluded. You gave me a half a minute.
Okay.
I don't think that this would open the floodgates, and I understand the Minister is worried about that. And I would also point out that many self-employed persons have to register as an employer, and in effect, and nobody ever gets any recognition for this as self-employed people, they're tax collectors who furnish these payments to Exchequer on a monthly basis and have to employ people to do so. Minister, I think it is time that this issue of self-employed people and their exclusion from the social welfare system as such, when they become unemployed, is faced up to and addressed in a positive way. It's the least they deserve, but I want to compliment you on a good start.
Minister, in 4 minutes.
First of all, I want to thank Deputy Penrose for raising this critically important issue for all of the people and the families and communities affected by the loss of employment by so many self-employed people who not just employ themselves and their families, but many, many other people, particularly in construction and allied sectors. Self-employed people are liable for PRSI at the Class S rate of 4%, which entitles them to access long-term benefits such as the state pension contributory and widow and widowers or surviving civil partners pension contributory. Ordinary employees who have access to the full range of social insurance benefits pay Class A PRSI at the rate of 4%. In addition, their employers make a PRSI contribution of 10.75% in respect of their employees, resulting in the payment of a combined 14.75% rate per employee under full rate PRSI Class A. For employees earning less than $356 per week, the rate of employees' PRSI is 4.25%. Any changes to the PRSI system to extend the full range of social insurance benefits, including job seekers' benefit to self-employed people, would have significant financial implications, and the Deputy has referenced that, and would have to be considered in the context of a much more significant rise in the rate of contribution payable. I established, as the Deputy said, the advisory group on tax and social welfare last year to meet the commitment made in the programme for government. The advisory group will, among other things, examine and report on issues involved in providing social insurance cover for self-employed persons in order to establish whether or not such cover is technically feasible and financially sustainable. In addition, the actuarial review of the Social Insurance Fund, which is due to be completed in mid-2012, will also examine this matter, because obviously what has happened in terms of the crash is that the Social Insurance Fund has gone into significant deficit, and that's part of the problem. And one of the things we have to do is get the Social Insurance Fund to grow so that we can meet all of the requirements on the Social Insurance Fund. Self-employed workers may establish eligibility to assistance-based payments such as job seekers allowance. They can apply for the means tested job seekers allowance if their business ceases or if they are on low incomes as a result of downturn in demand for their services. In general, their means will take account of the level of earnings in the last 12 months in determining their expected income for the following year, and in the current climate, account is taken of the downward trend in the economy. As in the case of a non-self-employed unemployed claimant of job seekers allowance, the means of the person's husband or wife, civil partner or cohabitant will be taken into account in deciding on an entitlement to payment. And I share the Deputy's memory of 1 year ago, the snow, but also the total distress among families who found themselves in the unfortunate position that Deputy Penrose has described so eloquently.
Deputy, do you have a
Thank you, Minister. But isn't it a position that even to bring equality in the system, that all current earnings from self-employment is taken into account, or no disregards like in a similar situation if you're in employment? That's number one. And earnings are assessed as gross income less all the work-related expenses. But, Minister, I don't think we should resile, notwithstanding what you said, and you're absolutely right in terms of actuarial, it will be significant. I don't think we should resile from confronting this problem. I think the mark of this government is to be out to do something new and novel. And I think you're a reforming minister, and I have to say that. And I saw you at Cabinet, you were very great zeal for reforming. I think, Minister, you can leave your mark in the social welfare system with this thing. Don't resile. If it is 20%, so be it. But 20% of paying at that rate, when you go down to the office in 4 years' time, hopefully things will have turned around and you won't be going down to the office. But if you are, at least you'll be able to go in and get immediate payment, because you must put food on the table today. It's no use promising utopia tomorrow. That's the important thing. Look after the people. And the self-employed people have basically been written out of the script. And I don't intend, Minister, as you probably know when I get being on my bonnet, I don't intend to allow them to be written out of the script, because I've sampled that area myself as well as been employed. So I know the two sides of this coin, and indeed you do yourself, I think. And so I think, Minister, I know they're going to come back with a report. Make sure don't allow us to become the hallmark of this government that would have a report that allowed to gather dust. Make it action, get it into the committee and we'll debate it. And I think, Minister, you'll find more than willing participants from the self-employed industry to progress along a positive route with you.
I very much appreciate the views that the Deputy has put forward. I mean, the fact is, and our social insurance system has to change to accommodate the absolute fact that many more people now, at some point in their working lives, are going to be self-employed contractors, set up perhaps a small family company, as happened a lot in the construction industry. In some cases, employers have structured employment so that people who formerly would have become within the scope of being deemed to be employees are in fact contractors and self-employed. Now, I don't think we can call it a universal social insurance system unless we take account of the patterns of employment, because many of the self-employed people that Deputy Penrose is talking about are people who worked in construction. They may be plumbers, carpenters, other skilled people in the construction trade. Traditionally, they would have worked and been employed as employees, but the way the construction industry moved, over time, many of them became self-employed, either as subbies, and were left waiting, for payments, and that in turn contributed. I'm very conscious as well of what Deputy Penrose said, that at the moment in law, even if somebody had the wherewithal and the wish to make a full contribution, they aren't able to do that. And that point has been made to me, Deputy Penrose, on many occasions personally by people who are self-employed. There's a wide range, your own original profession, barristers are self-employed. There's a wide range of people who are self-employed, which we often don't think of as self-employed. And I know certainly from speaking to a wide range of people, not only in the construction sector, that many people are interested in being allowed to make a voluntary contribution so that they would actually gain some, if you like, cushion of safety in the event that unfortunately their business or their employment went south.